Welcome to the first episode of Prosecutor's new podcast series, where technology meets law. I'm your host, Mohammad Bakhtiar, and together we'll dive into the world of digital rights, cybersecurity, tech regulation that shape our modern lives. Well, whether you are a tech enthusiast or just curious about how the law impacts the digital world, this is your place to stay informed and empowered. In the first episode, we are unpacking the power of algorithms and how they're shaping India's legal landscape, from content recommendation to shadow banning. We will break down how algorithms influence what we see and don't see online. And to explore the legal implication, today we have with us Syed Mohammad Haroon, who is also my super senior. Well, to give a little introduction about him, Syed Mohammad Haroon is a dedicated tech law professional working with a reputed digital rights organization, where he where he specializes in safeguarding digital rights and advancing open source principles. His work focuses on navigating complex issues in data privacy, cyber regulations, and technology policies that shape the digital economy. Known for his insightful analysis and advocacy, Harun is committed to building a fairer, more transparent digital space. His expertise makes him a vital voice in the evolving intersection of law and technology. Well, very warm welcome to you, sir.
Thank you so much, Bhaktiyar, and it's really great to be here and see that you're doing so great, especially in the field of tech, because understanding how things are moving, everything that is in the real world is going to move to tech, is going to move to the digital realm. So it's a very nice initiative that you have done, and I feel glad that I'm the first guest you have as your host. So I'm looking forward to this discussion.
Thank you, Harun sir. And it is only seniors like you who have paved this way for us to explore this digital rights and tech law, and who has drawn our interest in this rich intersection. Well, to begin our podcast, the very first question that I would like to ask you is what is shadow banning and how prevalent is it on social media platforms operating in India?
Shadow banning is a concept that we, as individuals, got to know a few years ago. So, it's a form of censorship where a user's content is suppressed or is hidden from public view without their knowledge. So, there's a stark difference between the content blocking that happens in the real world and shadow banning. So, as the word entails, shadow, it is done without the knowledge of the users and the users' platform audience. So, for instance, you might be uploading a video that would garner 10 million views in a span of a week. Once shadow banning is applied, the video will still be out there. However, the reach will decrease from, let's say, for example, 10 million to 1 million. So your views are significantly reduced, and it has been done for various reasons. All of that is in theory as of now. So it includes reducing the visibility of your post, limiting the reach of your content, and preventing the post from appearing in search results even. So the third part, which is the appearance in third result, is something that made the practice of shadow banning very apt, because the other two one can get away with, the platforms can get away with, but if your posts are not showing in the search results, that means there's something substantially wrong. So the question on how prevalent it is on social media, it is very difficult to quantify, because the social media platforms which are currently operating in India have an anecdotal evidence, and the user reports suggest that there's a widespread practice. I was actually in conversation with a few content creators in India, one specifically from YouTube, who was speaking on the farmers' protest. And previously, he used to get a lot more views, but then during the farmers' protest, the the view count was diminished by a significant amount. I'm really sorry for the background noise. It's my cats.
And not a problem.
Yeah. So that's the issue. That's the thing. Shadow banning is essentially a undefined censorship practice. It's highly prevalent in India right now, and almost it's there in almost every social media platform.
Well, okay. To follow up on that, you said that it is very prevalent. So, do these algorithms, how do they decide which content to suppress? And do these decisions at any point reflect a bias against any socio-political viewpoint as such?
Okay, so yeah, this is a question which is asked a lot on shadow banning, and unfortunately, at the moment, we do not have a very uh, precise answer for it. But see, every algorithm has every not algorithm, every social media platform has a different algorithm, and these are very complex algorithms that curate content and provide it to the users. Now, these factors include engagement, post frequency, platform terms of service, etc., etc. They have every platform has different way of engaging with content and how they're showing content. So that's first thing. That's algorithm is something which is out of the view of the public, primarily for the reasons that they are the IP of that social media platform. The second question is I think that these decisions having a bias against social political viewpoints. Yes, so it is also said that if you remember the Cambridge Analytica scandal that happened.
Yeah,
So, and this is all, I mean, in theory right now, nothing is proven.
yeah,
So I must
yeah. Sure,
clarify
sure,
that.
sure, sure.
Allegedly, what happened was that there are two presidential candidates and a social media platform which was involved with one of the presidential candidate was found to be speed speed jumping or giving more attention to their content reaching out to specific users in specific areas. And it was not only limited to that point, it was also that these contents were made in a way that the electoral college was kept into the mind. So obviously you have three categories. If you are running for a presidential election or anything, the people who will vote for you, the people who will not vote for you, and the people who may or may not vote for you. So the people who will vote for you, they're your thing. The people who won't, under any circumstances, they're out. Your target is the third one. So the contents being made by specific users and users were content creators were paid and were given all the instructions to create such content, and then such content were being pushed to the users of the third category. That means the category which tends to shift towards a particular candidate. So that's how this works. So it definitely has a socio-political viewpoint and it definitely affects people in that manner. Unless and until we have very strict guidelines and transparency mechanisms over it, unfortunately, this is a very open seas kind of a situation in we are stuck.
So we understand that shadow banning is a form of a censorship, right? So
Yeah.
can you elaborate on what can be its implication on the freedom of speech, more particularly in India?
Yeah, definitely. So um, I take the most recent examples of protests in India. That was the farmers' protest. So if this, I mean, up until now, India has been relying on the content blocking mechanism, which is done through the 2009 blocking rules, wherein if any content or any user is found to be breaking the protocols or the laws which are being rules which are being placed in the by the government, if anyone is found to be breaking those rules, his content or her content would be blocked, or even the account can be blocked. So that is one thing that we saw, and that gave a very direct implication on the freedom of speech in India. Now, up until now, we are unsure on how prevalent this is from the social media platforms point of view and the government's implication in it. If shadow banning, the practice of shadow banning from that point of view, wherein a state controlled shadow banning is taken into account, that is going to have serious implications, because as of now, even though a person has the right of going through the adjudicatory body and getting recourse if it is a content blocking platform, that won't be available for shadow banning. Other than that, for freedom of speech, if a social media platform is of the view that they are going to take side of a certain ethnic group or certain minority or majority, be it religious, caste, color, anything, that is going to significantly stifle freedom of speech. Obviously, we have to understand that there is a balance that they have to maintain between freedom of speech and ensuring that the media ethics code and platform regulations are followed. But if it is not controlled, most definitely, shadow banning is going to cause a great harm for freedom of speech in India, because it's not um, just silencing dissenting voice or raising concerns about democratic discourse. It's also more and more about how much of a freedom you feel, because you see the main reason why people use social media these days is the uh, concept of anonymity and safety, if not anonymity, that comes with it, that one can express themselves without the potential repercussions if they are staying in under certain lines. So yeah, that is a serious concern. But yeah, we have to see how it comes later on.
Okay, sure, sure. So recently, Europe passed a law during the election season wherein the social media platforms had to disclose information what they're if they're spreading there has been a disinformation which is spreading on social media. They'll have to recognize the original creator of that content. So
Yeah.
similar to that in India, well, what do you think that how transparent are social media platforms about their content moderation practices in India? And yeah, the other question is that should they be legally required to disclose more information?
Okay, that's a conundrum. See, definitely, if there is harm being made, there has to be a recourse. For that recourse, the person who's causing the harm must be called upon. And in that case, a social media platform should be transparent with their content moderation practices. But usually, content social media platforms are opaque about their content moderation practices. All right, that includes shadow banning. While some of these platforms, after the regulation you're talking about, came out with their guidelines and transparency reports.
Yeah.
In my opinion, what I have seen, these transparency reports lack certain specifications with respect to the content moderation done by themselves. All right. So there is this big social media platform, which recently published its transparency report, and it specifically mentioned the amount of uh, social media accounts they had taken down per Indian government's request, but it did not mention self regulation or self censoring and self banning of user content. So that is something where everything is opaque. So, in order to enhance transparency and accountability, it is essential that the platforms are forthcoming about their moderation policies, especially in countries with strong free speech protections like India. And obviously, there are legal requirements that could compel platforms to disclose more information about the content moderation practices, including the criteria of shadow banning. But then there comes an issue of then again the structure, operational structure uh, of the specific social media platform or an intermediary. So, for instance, the most recent example is the ANI versus Wikimedia case, where
Yeah.
ANI is very rightfully asking that I am being harmed. Give me the names of the people who have posted such things about me. Wikipedia Wikimedia is saying, see, I do not have control over anyone who's editing the page. I do not have control over, I do not myself control the page. It's users who are doing it. And as you can see, there is no opinion written on it. It's all fact based, relied on other sources. So the question comes here on the accountability of social media platforms, the laws, and who should be standing in to defend themselves. Obviously, what Wikipedia could do right now is to just serve the notice to the people who had edited the page, and as per the
Yeah.
most recent hearing, they are doing so.
Yeah.
But then that creates a, a pressure or an accountability on Wikipedia for doing this on every single instance.
Yeah.
Again, the question comes: would an intermediary be doing it for every single instance? There would be multiple thousand cases happening, and obviously, in order to ensure that justice is being served, there has to be a person present. The accused and the victims have to be there. But as of now, disclosure mechanism is there. However, the transparency with the transparency reports, we need more specifications. We need to understand, obviously, Indian judicial system needs to understand specific operational structure of each and every social media platform so that the legislators as well as the judges, judiciary can tailor make their proceedings according to that, because you have to understand it is a different intermediary because of the difference in the ways they function. Operational
Yeah.
structure is different. So yeah, that's one thing. But definitely they have to be more transparent, especially with the self moderation. But yeah, I don't think it's a very good idea to go on disclosing the names if your operational structure is created on a reasoning that you have the anonymity.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
that's it.
so we understand that shadow banning practice right now is largely unregulated in India, right?
Yeah.
So there are very dearth of Indian laws that regulate shadow banning. So we move to the last question of this podcast. Well, what role do you think can Indian government play in this regulation of shadow banning? And also, how can they balance the individual rights and also the interest of the stakeholders?
All right. So as we have seen under the GDPR, they have enforced transparency. That is one very good step. So enforcing transparency reports and transparency, disclosing content moderation policies, including as much details on the algorithm and decision making process as they can. That would be the first step. So that has to be enforced, and I'm hopeful that the data protection rules that are going to come into force have this. The next thing is in promoting independent oversight. So for this, we have in almost every other rules, such as the blocking rules, interception rules, internet suspension rules, we have seen that all of these rules contain a review committee, which was, I think, under 419A,
Yeah.
established under 419A. So, yeah. But again, if you look at this review committee, you have seen that the decisions being taken are taken by the members and are reviewed by the members of the executive body. What we would essentially, what would be the best case scenario is an intermingling of government oversight with government adjudication with independent oversight. So,
Yeah.
emphasizing and establishing an independent body to monitor content moderation practice and investigation of complaints of censorship. That is something which would be really helpful. Obviously, we have taken great strides in this field. We have established a nodal officer, we have established a grievance redressal officer. All of these things are available, which are very, very good steps. However, I think if we have a more straightforward way of addressing this, that would be very nice. Other than that, we have, I think, in order to balance the individual rights with the interest of stakeholders, more and more stakeholder and user based interactions have to be made.
Yeah.
Why I'm saying this is that almost we have millions of users on very relevant social media platforms who do not even know that their data is being used to train AI, their data is being used to have marketing
Yeah.
solutions being sent to them. So, user education is completely necessary. We all agree to the terms and conditions. The more we read about the terms and conditions, the better we will know how our content is going to be moderated and what are we getting into. See, there's always this balance between luxury and privacy.
Yeah.
So you have to choose. And obviously, sometimes you would want luxury and sometimes you would want privacy. So that's how you have to choose and you have to read. So, in order to create this balance of individual rights and interests of the stakeholders, it requires a very delicate approach because you are working in a very competitive market. And while it is important to have freedom of speech, it is also necessary to prevent the spread of harmful content. So even if the social media platforms are required to be transparent, they also have to understand that they are not bullied to give out information at the whims and fancies of any random person asking for it. So there is the balance. So, and at the moment, I believe Indian laws are made in a reactive state of mind rather than a proactive state of mind where what could happen.
Yeah.
But so, for instance, the deep fake rules that have come across the from I think Cert N. Correct me if I'm wrong. I might be wrong here. But there were deep fake rules. They came out after a number of deep fakes of celebrities were spread.
Yeah.
So we understand the current situation we are living in. We understand the practices being followed in the technology. We should not be waiting for something to happen.
Yeah. Sure.
We should be looking at a proactive approach and building legislations accordingly, which should balance the individual rights, as you rightly said, and the interests of the stakeholders, for which our dialogue is essential between these two groups. So yeah, I think that's the conclusion of that, our dialogue. Simple enough.
Thank you so much, sir,
Please.
to be here to share insights and to enlighten us with the concept of shadow banning because it's not very common right now in India. People don't know about it a lot. So yeah, thank you so much. So we'll see you.
You're very welcome. Thank you. All right. Good luck.
Thank you so much.